Welcome back. In this video, we're covering Lesson 1.3, the principle of least privilege and zero trust. Up to this point, we've broken down core identity and access management concepts and explored how legacy Active Directory differs from modern cloud identity in Microsoft entra-id. Now, before we step into our hands-on labs, we need to master the two foundational security philosophies that drive every single configuration in modern cloud architecture. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to clearly do three things. First, you'll define the principle of least privilege, POLP, and understand how limiting user rights drastically reduces an organization's attack surface. Second, you'll explain the zero trust architecture model and its core philosophy: never trust, always verify. And third, you'll identify the three core pillars of zero trust and see how they directly apply when securing any environments in the real world. Let's jump straight into our first topic. Let's kick off Section 1 of this lesson by looking at one of the most fundamental concepts in cybersecurity, the principle of least privilege. Whether you are managing an on-premises network or configuring cloud resources in Microsoft entra-id, this principle dictates how every account, service, and application should be granted access. Look at the diagram on screen. At its core, managing employee access requires two primary actions. First, we must continuously remove or restrict unnecessary privileges. Second, we ensure users are given access only to the necessary systems and applications required to do their daily job, nothing more. When you intersect these two concepts, you achieve secure state of employee access where credentials are protected and unnecessary permissions are stripped away. To put this into a formal definition, least privilege dictates that every user, service, or process must be granted only the minimum level of access required to perform its specific task, and only for the duration needed. Why is this so important? Look at the contrast shown here. If an attacker compromises an overprivileged account, for example, a user who was assigned global administrator rights just for convenience, the risk exposure is massive. The attacker gains full control over the entire tenant, leading to a total breach. However, if that same account was configured following least privilege, for example, assigned only a help desk administrator role, the risk is heavily minimized. Even if compromised, the attacker's blast radius is restricted, preventing them from taking over the entire organization. So, how do we enforce least privilege in a real-world enterprise environment? There are three key practices you need to implement. 1. Role-based access control. RBAC always assign granular, built-in administrative roles. Instead of making someone a full administrator, assign targeted roles like user administrator or help desk administrator based on their exact job duties. 2. Just-in-time, JIT, access. Ensure administrative privileges are not standing or permanent. Users remain at standard privileges until they need to perform an admin task. They then request temporary elevation using tools like Privileged Identity Management, PIM, in Microsoft entra-id. Example of just-in-time JIT access with Microsoft Entra PIM. Let's say Stefan is a help desk engineer. On a normal day, he works with standard user privileges and does not have administrative access to Microsoft 365. One day, Stefan needs to reset password for several users and modify some entra-id settings. Instead of having permanent administrator rights, he opens Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management, PIM, requests activation of the user administrator role, provides a business justification and completes MFA, receives administrative privileges for 2 hours, performs the required tasks. After 2 hours, the elevated privileges are automatically removed. Without just-in-time, JIT, Stefan is a permanent user administrator 24/7, even when he doesn't need the role. With just-in-time, JIT, Stefan is a regular user most of the time and becomes an administrator only when required and only for a limited period. Benefit: if Stefan's account is compromised, the attacker will not automatically inherit administrative privileges because they are not permanently assigned. 3. Regular access reviews. Security isn't a one-time setup. You must continuously audit user permissions and run automated access reviews to remove stale or excessive rights, especially when employees change job roles or leave the company. UCA used multiple tools to automate this process, like Microsoft entra-id governance, access reviews, and Microsoft Purview Audit. Let's take a real-world example. Suppose your company has 200 employees, 15 Microsoft 365 administrators, and 50 SharePoint sites. Every quarter, Microsoft Entra Access Reviews automatically sends to managers a list of their employees and their current access rights. A manager may discover an employee left the company 3 months ago, but still has an active account. A finance employee still has access to a confidential merger project. A help desk technician still has administrator privileges assigned years ago. The manager removes these unnecessary permissions, reducing security risk immediately. Why access reviews matter? Without access reviews, users accumulate permissions over time. Former employees may still have active accounts. Attackers can exploit excessive privileges. With regular access reviews, only the right people keep access. Unused permissions are removed. The attack surface is significantly reduced. Think of access reviews as a periodic cleanup of your organization's permissions, ensuring that access remains aligned with current business need. Master these 3 practices, and you'll dramatically shrink your environment's attack surface. Now let's transition into Section 2 of this lesson, Zero Trust. In the modern cloud era, the traditional castle and moat security model, where we assumed everything inside the office network was safe, is completely dead. Zero Trust is a fundamental security framework that replaces an outdated mindset. Zero Trust is an IT security framework built on one simple core principle: never trust, always verify. It assumes that no user, device, or network connection is safe by default, regardless of whether they are sitting inside the office building or connecting remotely from a coffee shop. Every single access request must be checked and continuously validated before entry is granted. As you can see on screen, this approach relies on 3 operational steps. Step 1. Verify every user. We never rely on a password alone. We continuously verify identity using MFA and real-time risk telemetry. Step 2. Validate their devices. We check if the endpoint attempting connection is compliant, patched, and managed. Step 3. Intelligently limit their access. We enforce dynamic policies so users only reach the exact application or resource they need. To implement Zero Trust successfully in platforms like Microsoft entra-id, you must follow the 3 core guiding principles. 1. Verify explicitly. The rule: always authenticate and authorize based on all available data points. Never trust a user simply because they are plugged into the Office LAN. Signals checked. We evaluate user identity, location, device health, workload context, and real-time anomaly risk scores before granting access. 2. Use least privileged access. The rule: limit user permissions using just-in-time JIT and just-enough access JEA controls, backed by risk-based adaptive policies. 3. Assume breach. The rule: always design your infrastructure under the assumption that an attacker has already breached your internal network. Actions: minimize the blast radius by segmenting access, encrypting all end-to-end communication, and leveraging automated threat protection to spot suspicious behavior in real time. Master these 3 principles, and you will have the exact mindset needed to design enterprise-grade cloud security architectures. That wraps up our foundational module. You now have a solid grasp of core IAM principles, legacy Active Directory versus cloud identity, and the critical pillars of least privilege and zero trust. Now, it's time to take all of this theory and put it into action. In our very next lesson, we are stepping into the lab to start our hands-on practice directly inside Microsoft entra-id. We will walk through setting up your free developer tenant step by step, so you can follow along and build real-world configurations with me. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and let's start learning in the next lesson. I'll see you in the lab.